This episode is brought to you by Amazon Prime. There's nothing sweeter than baking cookies during the holidays. With Prime, I get all my ingredients delivered right to my door, fast and free, no last-minute store trips needed. And of course, I blast my favorite holiday playlist on Amazon Music. It's the ultimate soundtrack for creating unforgettable memories. From streaming to shopping, it's on Prime. Visit Amazon.com/Prime to get more out of whatever you're into.
Hey, it's Austin James. Yes, I'm living with diabetes, but it doesn't have to define me. Thanks to the Freestyle Libre 3 Plus sensor, I get real-time glucose readings throughout the day. The Freestyle Libre 3 Plus sensor is small and easy to wear, giving me the freedom to focus on my life as a parent and a musician. Now this is progress. You can get a free sensor at freestylelibre.us.
Offer available for people who qualify. Visit myfreestyle.us to see all terms and conditions. Certain exclusions apply. Data on file. Abbott Diabetes Care. For prescription only. Safety info found at freestylelibre.us.
Chronic migraine is 15 or more headache days a month, each lasting 4 hours or more.
Botox, onabotulinum toxin A, prevents headaches in adults with chronic migraine. It's not for adults with migraine with 14 or fewer headache days a month. It prevents, on average, 8 to 9 headache days a month versus 6 to 7 for placebo.
Prescription Botox is injected by your doctor. Effects of Botox may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away, as difficulty swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness can be signs of a life-threatening condition. Patients with these conditions before injection are at highest risk. Side effects may include allergic reactions, neck and injection site pain, fatigue, and headache. Allergic reactions can include rash, welts, asthma symptoms, and dizziness. Don't receive Botox if there's a skin infection. Tell your doctor your medical history, muscle or nerve conditions, including ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, myasthenia gravis or Lambert-Eaton syndrome, and medications, including botulinum toxins, as these may increase the risk of serious side effects.
Ask your doctor and visit BotoxChronicMigraine.com or call 1-800-44-BOTOX to learn more.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our Quick Publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Scouser Tommies on Anfield Index. I am Jim Boardman. I am with Jay Reid. As always, we're recording this almost a week after the derby, except the derby didn't happen, of course, because of the weather. People were complaining at the time about it being called off, but let's just say transport at the very least wasn't going to be easy for a lot of people on that day. Not to mention, as we were talking in the podcast about it, bits of Everton's roof might have been flying off, and I've not heard of anything about Goodison, about what's happened to the actual stadium, whether all the bits stayed on, but they're not going to announce it, are they, if they all fell inside? No doubt we'll find out soon if there was an issue. It's been a busy week for us in a way, in the sense that we've all but secured our place in the in the group that avoids the knockout bit, the first knockout bit of the Champions League. I'm not sure it was the best match to watch for us doing it, but anyway, we did it. Mathematically, yeah, we're not through, but realistically, we probably are. I think the only way we can't go through is if we don't win either game and loads of other teams win all of their games, and there's probably even then not that much of a chance of it happening, because some of those teams will play each other anyway, so we'll see. But as it is, football carries on. There's loads to talk about today. There's plenty coming up. We've got Fulham this weekend, and then it's the Carabao Cup in the midweek. But Jay, I suppose we should mention the derby. Really, it was a bit of a weird one. I was sort of all set for this derby as much as I can be. It was an early kickoff. The weather wasn't great. We had some running around to do that morning before the game, and then some afterwards. And in the end, I was thinking, God, I wish when I did go out later on. I mean, I was driving down the M62, and it was like it was feeling like almost like an ice. It was that windy. It was so strong, the gusts of wind. But I think it was fair enough it didn't go ahead, even though I'm sure they're thinking that was an opportunity missed. They'd just won 4-0. They were really on a high, and they were probably hoping for a repeat of what happened last year. But I suppose the other side to it is they've got a chance of playing us under the lights.
Yeah, I think anyone in and around the city who was outside last Saturday, which I was in the afternoon, at times the wind stopped you in your tracks. So, I would consider myself an able-bodied, reasonably strongish enough adult to be able to stand on my own 2 feet. If you think of anybody unstable, maybe elderly people or people of poor mobility, to try and get to the ground alone in that wind wouldn't have been very feasible. So, just that health and safety aspect alone of people trying to get to that ground, which is even more residential than Anfield. It's not a safe aspect, and the public transport was a shambles last weekend. I myself had a few issues trying to get about because of trains and whatever, but safety is paramount. And of course, Evertonians all come up with you just don't fancy it in the wind, fair weather football and all that.
We called it off, yeah.
Yeah. It come from the health and safety advisory of the council and the clubs, not like, Liverpool and Arne Slot putting a request and saying, oh no, we don't want the wind to mess up Dom Szoboszlai's new hairdo and all that. So yeah, it was unfortunate, but the right decision for, the grand scheme of everything, take away the football was paramount, and, that was the right decision that was made. Obviously now the rearranged fixture is in February under the lights, which they'll fancy. What they won't fancy is the fact that, Alexis McAllister will be available, albeit, injury or suspension at the time. Ibu Kanate could be available. Other players like Diogo Jota, etc., fingers crossed fitness-wise, will be available. They won't like that idea. And, the irony could be that one of those players who weren't available last weekend could potentially score the match winner, and that would just boil so much piss. It'd be unbelievably great. And we'd revel in it because, they'll hold that against us forever. But, the game has got to be played somewhere. And I think, if they take any sort of solace as last season when they, made their cup final at Goodison and they beat us under the lights and they rose to the occasion for once in a life, then, they'll probably try and summon that sort of inner blue power that they've got. But yeah, we were probably, in a way, kind of blessed. Obviously, it went in our favour of injuries and suspensions. But I think, as we kind of think further back, the game against Newcastle, we were looking a bit leggy. It was just kind of a blessing in disguise. We got the rest. 3 games in 6 days was quite stressful, or would have been if we'd have played it. So be it, we got the extended break and went to Gerona. Then I've got to be honest, I've seen the first half. The second half, my stream sort of cut out, so I didn't see anything in the second half apart from the last 10 minutes, at which point, we were 1-0 up, and from all reports, it was a bit of a basketball game, and we were sort of not ever under the cosh at any time, but we got a decent workout for our keeper who came back. So, positives taken from that, as you said, were we topped the group, or we topped the league, whatever it is, albeit, a mad series of events that would see us not automatically qualify, and we've basically given ourselves the luxury of previous Champions League campaigns of a 6-game group. We've smashed it, and those games that come after Christmas, which were added in this year for the mad league situation, we can all but coast and probably send out a rotated squad for one game, and if we wanted to, we could even send the kids for the last game, which is away at PSV, because if a couple of results go in our favour, I think it's Barcelona who the only ones could possibly topple us if we, drop a few points. If we do the business at home to Leo, we're pretty much guaranteed first, I think, then. So that would be, a tremendous bit of work that's done. And it gives ourselves the option to go into the latter half of the season, the ability to rotate, rest, and have a look at a few players who we maybe have not had the chance to have a look at yet.
Yeah, I mean, those next 2 Champions League games fall on the 21st and 29th of Jan, so still in the transfer window. So maybe we can try out some of our brand new winter signing. Okay, let's not even. That's going to happen. Gerona, though, I think that game. If I was wondering, I was talking about this somewhere else, and I was just thinking that it could have been on Raw the other night. Would we have started with that same side? And I was thinking at first that without looking at the suspension things, you think to yourself, well, maybe if we played the derby on Saturday as expected, every one of those plays would have had another load of minutes in the legs, heavy minutes against a team that aren't as graceful, should we say, as some, maybe. A more physical game than maybe we could have expected. And I wondered if maybe we would have had a different lineup, all things considered, because of just having had that game. But then I looked at the bench, and I think we had sort of, well, the subs who came on were basically the only outfield subs that you would expect to come on. The bench wasn't even full, possibly because we'd had an under-19s game that day against the same side, well, against the under-19s. So maybe that was part of it, but it was such sort of, so that would explain why there's none of the youngsters on the bench, or fewer of the youngsters on the bench, but it doesn't really look good for us in terms of having enough plays to get through what's coming up now, because it is busy now. So it's done us a favour in that sense, missing the Everton game, because although I'm sure Slot, in reality, if everyone was fit, might have had a good bit of rotation between the two games. I think the fact he can't rotate is a worry, but at least having one game less meant he had some players available. I think the two things that stand out to me from that game are that you almost forget how good Alisson Becker is. I mean, this is no disrespect to Kelleher, who's done an admirable job sitting in. He's not a bad goalkeeper at all, but Alisson Becker's just on another level completely. He's just so far ahead, and that is not, in my view, he's probably the best goalkeeper in the world. So you can't expect yourself to be higher than him. It's a massively high bar that you're up against if you want to beat him. But then the other side to that is the other end of the pitch was he's starting a bit more now. I think Darwin Nunez, I think that you and I have been sort of defending him, and I think a lot of people at the ground sort of, when you're at a game, as soon as he does anything, people get his name gets shouted. But I think the people who are growing impatient with him, he's growing now because he's missing chances. I still point to his work rate. I still point to all the other stuff he does. And I still point to the fact that in the end, it doesn't matter who gets the goals if you're getting the goals. If you're winning a game, you're winning a game. It doesn't matter who got the goals. It's great for them as individuals. But as a team, if Darwin had the pass that led to the assist, that led to the goal in every game, he wouldn't be getting much recognition on the stat sheets maybe, but he'd be getting recognition from the fans. The worry I've got, though, is how much longer can we sort of indulge him in this sense? Because even though I've just said all that about the work rate, scoring goals is important. I still think there's time, personally. I still think the biggest obstacle to him in terms of time, though, is that looking at the press conference today from Arne Slot, it looks like Jota's definitely looking like he's going to be in the squad. Chiesa looking like he could be in the squad. Maybe not as a start, but definitely getting a step closer. I think Chiesa might be tried out in the midweek game from the way Slot was speaking. But, both of those are getting closer. Both of those stand in the way of Darwin if he's not producing the goods. Is it really coming to the end of his time, or are we being a bit hasty, or are people being a bit hasty saying that enough's enough?
I think it's a bit of both, if I'm honest. So, yeah, having strikers, and I think you mentioned this on Raw, to be honest with you, tonight, and the number 9 shirt at Liverpool, carries a lot of gravitas, and the currency that strikers deal in, the goals, and sadly, he's not putting that statistic on the board, so there's no measurements that seem more clear for a striker than a goal. Or at least an assist or goal involvements. But, Slot speaks about, he's having much more of an impact in terms of pressing and whatever. And yes, the statistics out there, and AI are one of the forefronts of, pressing stats and whatever. That can be measured. But at the end of the day, the eye test is sometimes the only test you need rather than statistics. Of course, in the world of football now, they do help a lot. And sometimes the eye test is not a pretty eye test. Sometimes when you're watching Darwin, and I think what Slot said today was right in terms of, he will always have the back of the fans in the ground, albeit the minority will grumble and groan. But the majority, especially at Anfield, when I'm there myself, when Nunez is involved, and sometimes, people go, well, he's only pressing, or, he's only sort of, closing down a tackle, or he's having an effort on goal, and it's like the crowd within Anfield are behind him. They want him to succeed. We want every player who pulls on a red shirt to succeed, because why wouldn't you? If you didn't, you'd probably support Everton and booed him. But yes, his days at Liverpool may be numbered in terms of when we come to the summer. I think it's pretty obvious in general the number 9 role in an Arne Slot team is different from a number 9 role in a Jurgen Klopp team, or a number 9 role in many other teams. So, maybe his skill set doesn't exactly excel to the highest level of what Arne Slot wants. He's getting some things out of him. I think that's clear. But what, as I said, what strikers are generally judged on is goal output and involvement, and we don't seem to be getting too much of that from him. I think himself, he's putting a lot of pressure on himself, and I think, he's kind of very aware of social media, and he put a post out this week, and God bless him, he probably should be just maybe ignoring social media for a little bit. There was idiots, getting too personal, and that's never acceptable at all. And maybe it is. He's still a young fella within his head, and he's putting a little bit too much pressure on himself at times. I think Slot was right in saying that Slot and Chiesa could be back the weekend. I think the chances are one will probably make the bench. It'd be nice, if we could get in a position where one of them gets on the pitch for 15, 20 minutes, 25 minutes of the weekend, and then again, the upcoming Carabao Cup tie next week, if we could get one or two of them on the pitch for a bit longer, and see these lads involved, because we all know the finisher that's Diogo Jota is. We all have seen enough of Diogo Jota to know he's probably much more suited to what Arne Slot wants. And with Chiesa, there's promise. We know the Chiesa big injury at Juventus was a sensational player. There was talk of 70, 80, 90 million pound moves for him. He's not had the best of times in the last 2 years, and his Liverpool career has not really got started at all. So hopefully we're doing the right thing with him, and we've built him up correctly, which is what Slot said actually today about Alisson Becker. We could have brought him back a couple of games ago, but we've taken our time and we've built him up because we want Alisson Becker available for the long term. We don't want him available for the next couple of games. He's always said he's number 1, and as you said before, no slight on Kieran Kelleher, but Alisson Becker is the world's number 1 keeper, and if you can have him available for an extended period, not just for a couple of games, and maybe you'd have to be careful and manage him. We've taken that extra bit of care because we can, because of what Kelleher can produce and has produced. If that now means, Alisson Becker, fingers crossed, touch wood, is available fit for the rest of the season, we're certainly in a much, much stronger position. And again, not a knock on Kelleher, but there is just a little bit of a class difference between those two. Kelleher might get there one day, but right now he's just not.
This episode is brought to you by Disney Plus. Game on, because ESPN Plus content is available on Disney Plus. You can watch your favorites from Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN Plus together like never before. With ESPN Plus, unwrap a full day of NBA action on Christmas Day. Tip off the festivities with the Spurs and Knicks, followed by the Mavs and Timberwolves. Then a clash between the Lakers and Warriors, followed by the 76ers and Celtics. And finally, the Nuggets face off against the Suns, all streaming December 25th. Then with Hulu, watch the terrifying sci-fi thriller Alien Romulus, where a group of young space colonizers come face to face with the ultimate horror. And on Disney Plus, follow the adventures of 4 kids across the galaxy as they meet unlikely allies and enemies in Star Wars Skeleton Crew, starring Jude Law. All of these and more now streaming and available with a bundle subscription. Visit DisneyPlus.com for details. Terms apply.
This year, Santa's bringing the power of Energizer into his workshop.
Whoa, the Energizer Bunny's got so much power.
Wait, he's powered up all the toys. I think that means we're done for the year.
I love this bunny.
He's the hardest working helper the North Pole has ever seen. And he wants all your gifts to have the power of the #1 longest lasting AA battery. So this holiday season, stock up on Santa's and the elves' favorite battery, Energizer Ultimate Lithium.
When you share your food, you share your heart. So what's on your table this holiday season? Save on your festive feast at Kroger with delicious deals on all the holiday classics. Or wow the crowd with something new, like a quinoa stuffed butternut squash. It's sure to add a pop of color to your spread. How about a sweet potato casserole with a crunchy oat streusel topping, made with care for the sweet tooth and the savory tooth? With Kroger, fill your table with love and watch as your guests' hearts get as full as their bellies. Kroger, fresh for everyone.
I don't need a VPN. I've got nothing to hide. Ha. This is what I used to tell myself before I hooked up with LibertyShield.com. Not only is my home internet now fully encrypted, but I can now access all the websites I want, whenever I want, and do so from absolutely anywhere. As a Liverpool fan, I love to know I can now watch every match, regardless of whether it's on UK TV or not. My Liberty Shield VPN makes sure nothing is blocked and guarantees me super fast streaming speed throughout that match. You can get connected right now with their software package, which includes a 48-hour no-obligation free trial and instant access to their apps for Apple, Android, Fire TV, PC, Mac and Android TV. Or go a step further like I have and get one of their pre-configured VPN routers. These small but powerful devices allow you to easily connect every device in your home to VPN, making it the perfect solution for smart TVs, Mac boxes, and games consoles. Visit LibertyShield.com today and use coupon code AIVPN25 to get 25% off at checkout.
No, I think, there aren't many. I mean, even if you sort of had to agree to disagree with other fans, you might have a group of the best goalkeepers in the world, and that's a very select group even then, and not all of them are all on great form at the moment anyway, so Manchester City might be thinking that at the moment. Who knows? The other thing I was interested with, on Darwin quickly, that Slot said today, he's going on about the work rate and stuff, and he's saying, until now, I am not only judging Mo on his goals, I'm not only judging Darwin on his goals, I also judge them on the work rate and what they bring to the team. It's been positive until now. He's also saying that maybe he wants it a bit too much because the fans support him so much to score that goal for himself. And that just got me thinking of all the Joe Gomez shouts that you get whenever he's anywhere near anywhere in the other half, actually. But he nearly got one the other night. But I think that one with Darwin as well it's a good point, because you sometimes get strikers who might pop up and score the winner after 73 minutes, but for the rest of the game, they've been anonymous, which in itself isn't a problem, except when you also wanting them to do some of the helping out when you've not got the ball. And, a perfect striker sort of does everything. And I think Mo kind of counts as that perfect striker, maybe. But we've had other strikers in the past who might pop up with goals quite regularly, but the contribution in other ways hasn't been good enough. I'm not going to name any names, but you can just sort of imagine times you've been at the game and you've been hearing these shouts about people, just not doing the rest of the job that they're supposed to do. No doubt, as the game unfolds, we'll see. I was also thinking with Darwin, another good use for him might be Jota. We need to avoid giving Jota 90 minutes on a regular basis. Maybe even 60 should be his limit. And there's one thing I really like about Darwin is when he comes on in a game late on, maybe we're already ahead. The Man City game is a good example of this. You bring him on and he just presses the hell out of everybody. Just when they're trying to get through and beat us, he's just frightening him off the ball, and the chances of them scoring reduce because he's so good at pressing. And I suppose then there's still the outside chance that he'll go at the other end and get one. I know he's not at the moment, but I'm sure that'll come. Talking of Mo as well, the November Premier League Player of the Month award being announced, and it was Mo Salah, which is no surprise because in November's fixtures he scored 4 goals and an assist It's hard to keep count of what he scored because he's done all these Champions League stuff as well, of course. But the one that kind of got me a little bit surprised, but then not because it's us, isn't it? Arne Slot wins Premier League Manager of the Month. That's not a surprise, but it's the fact it's his first one. I mean, we're top of the league. We've been kind of in and around the top of the league all season, and it's mad to think he's only just getting it now. But this is, I don't know, I think, almost our secret weapon this season is that people kind of don't believe that we are what we are, that we're doing as well as we are. They're waiting for it to all go wrong. I hope it doesn't. It's like we said, we're not even getting noticed how many injuries we've got. I think I saw a headline the other day about by the time Liverpool play Spurs, that's a couple of games away, that they'll have 6 players missing. And I'm thinking, well, where's the contrast to that? Because we'll probably have the same number missing. But I think it's hard not to say it. Obviously, we're biased, but I don't think there's anyone come close to Arne, have they, for Manager of the Month?
No, that's, as you say, it's a bit of a mad one that he's not got it yet. I think, a couple of managers who've picked it up worthy at times, but, the only one I can think that's probably punched above the weight and earned it is probably Nuno Espirito Santo at Forest, the start that they had.
Yeah.
So you think, like some of their results, you think, yeah, well, that's pretty standout for Nottingham Forest in what they did last season to what they're doing this season. But yeah, like, we've hardly dropped many points, and to think like it's the first time he's sort of been recognised in 4 months of football. Because obviously it starts in August that, I think we've dropped points in 3 games or something like that, and we're now only seeing a bit of recognition. But we take that. Like if that's how he's viewed across the league and across, the authorities, that, we don't really think he's, the big deal. But we're just going about our way quietly, then that's fine. And, you're right with the injuries. It's often overlooked when you're doing well, how many injuries you've got, because you're doing fine. They're not really affecting you, but they are. Like, let's be honest here, we're bare bones in a defensive section of the squad, and other teams will use injuries as an excuse where we're not, because we're managing to get through, and we've been very sensible in how the load of our players in training and in match minutes as well, and fortunate enough that we've got a good enough squad that players who come in, you think of in the front line, you got Gakpo and Diaz doing a rotating cast, and Darwin is as part of that at the moment, in and out as well. And in midfield, we're a little bit light, but we're juggling with 4, and Endo might get 2 or 3 minutes here and there. I think you said yourself, it's very obvious. He's probably not top of Arne Slot's Christmas cards. He might get one up the cheap pack and remember, oh shit, I should have given Endo a card. But
the ones that have already been written out with no names on the inside, and he just quickly scribbles the name on the front.
Yeah, when the neighbour pops one through the door and you think, should get one to number 9 now. Quickly, where's the Spurs? He sort of falls into that category, God bless him. But yeah, we are thin at the back. But it's not really being spoken about because we're getting by. The clean sheets have sort of waned a little bit in last couple of weeks, but hopefully Gerona and the fact that Alisson Becker is back in goal, that might hopefully see us by with a couple more clean sheets. But yeah, I think I'm quite happy with us sort of being written off, sort of being overlooked, and albeit we're top of the league, people will look at the fact that even though we've got a game in hand, Chelsea are 4-5 points behind us or something like that as we go into this weekend. And people seem to go, Chelsea are on the coattails. Well, we've got a game in hand. If we win that game in hand, it's back to 7. And, we've still got a bigger gap on Arsenal and City, who many would probably see as the actual contenders in the long race. I think Chelsea are developing. I think maybe next year, if they don't do anything mad, which is a crazy thing to say about Chelsea, but if they maybe keep the manager and they don't sign 64 players and then loan out another 28 and then somehow fiddle the books that they're cooked in a cauldron, then they could possibly have the potential to be better next year. But also, you caveat that with they're playing in the Conference League. They were playing in, was it Azerbaijan or Kazakhstan last night? They were playing somewhere well over in the far eastern stretches of Europe, but they didn't send the majority of the first team squad, so they've got that luxury of they're playing midweek football, but they're not playing it with the first team where, the likes of us, Arsenal, City, and other teams are, I'm not saying the other team because there was a mad stat about the fact that Liverpool and Manchester United are only the English unbeaten teams in Europe. I'm like, do not compare us with them. Do not put them in the same sentence. That's chalk and cheese. But yeah, I think, once we get level pegging on games, which is going to be February, and once we get through the mad Christmas period, then you'll probably have a better judgment of where the league is looking, because, we're still not even at the halfway point yet.
We're not, and I'm just looking at that league table, actually. I mean, in our Premier League games, we've had 14 games, we've conceded 11. Champions League, 6 games, conceded 1. And considering, for example, 3 of those in the league were in 1 game against Newcastle. And considering how many of the games we played without our first choice keeper, that feels like we're a pretty defensive, a good side defensively now. And, Fulham, the game against Fulham, we were together for the Fulham game at Anfield last season, and that was the game where we just kept conceding, but we fought back and we won. Was it 4-3 after being 3-2 down? Those sorts of days of Liverpool seem to be gone. I don't know if they are. We'll see. There's plenty more season to go, but it feels like that kind of putting yourself in a position where you've got to work twice as hard to win a game. But instead of just, getting the work done early on so that you're not in that position, they feel like a long time ago now, those days. But Arne was talking in his press conference about Fulham, and he's talking about their defensive side. He thinks they can defend really strong, but he's also mentioning the threat of them on a counter-attack, and that to me is that's been one of Liverpool's weaknesses, is getting hit on the counter, because at times, definitely under Klopp, it was like if we were sort of struggling to get through them, we're knocking on the door, not getting through them, we almost forget that we've also got our own goal to defend, and we'd almost, overcommit ourselves, and then we'd be hit on the break. That's something we don't seem to do as much under this guy, but, we have done it at times in games. We have been a little bit like that. And I think that was part of the reason why it was a bit of a basketball game the other night. It was, I don't know, almost forgetting about manning the shop at the back as well as dealing with what's going forward. So again, and it keeps happening to us, we have things that go well for us, we have things that go wrong for us, but so far throughout the season, we've not been badly punished at most of the time. I mean, there was that Forest game that I didn't think happened, but other than that, we've had games where it's not worked out in terms of making a mess, but then it's worked out in the end because we've survived it. Ali helped us survive it the other night. Surely now we're sort of starting to get a bit more muscle memory around this sort of stuff. We've just got to be patient, and as fans, it can be boring watching a game where you win 1-0, but you're still much happier coming out of a 1-0 win than a defeat.
Yeah, I think we haven't had many crazy games this season. I think, the one that springs to mind, maybe Newcastle and possibly Southampton the other week. And we think across those games, we conceded 5 goals. So what is it? You said 11 we've conceded this season.
That's almost half, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So when you throw in the 2 against Arsenal, there's 7 from 3 games. So, there's not much left in terms of trying to find the odd goals that we conceded here and there. And if you scrap that not Forest game as you think so, then we're down to 8 then. So we've only got to find 3 goals across the season. But I think, we've said a few times this season, it's a case of getting used to a new style and brand of football, if you want to, hashtag it that way. But I'm quite happy with the fact that, you go to a game and you'll manage it, and whether you get the goal in the first half or not. If we go in, as we've said again many a time, at half-time, albeit drawing 0-0 or 1-0 or whatever, or 1-1, should it be a fact that we've conceded a goal, there's 100% belief in Arne Slot and his coaching team that they will find a way in the second half to tweak it, to sort of make it better. And, you know, the second half performances from the season have been unbelievable. And it's quite refreshing sometimes to go to a game and walk out the game and go, yeah, nice solid 2-0 win. Let's have a look how, you know, others have got on, rather than come out the game and be like, Jesus, I need to catch my breath. And by the time you get home, you think, oh, bloody hell, there was other games today. Let's see how everyone else got on. And it takes you like a couple of hours to come down from it. It's different, but it's good. And what we also have seen is when it's called for, you know, you think of Leverkusen, you think of Real Madrid, especially, you know, the European nights, the rousing sort of atmosphere, the call to arms where the crowd and the players work in harmony, and you get that little bit of sort of rock and roll football, as it was taglined on the clock, you know, the bit of mentalness where for 15, 20 minutes, it's absolute chaos, which I think Arne Slot probably doesn't want, but you can't help the power of Anfield. It just swept up and carried away in it. That when those occasions are called upon, you know, it takes over, and we can still go back to that, and we've blown teams away again. Manchester City as well. You throw that one in there where for sections of the game, and it's just a sway where it keeps on coming and coming and coming, and teams crumble. And
you see it on TV, you can almost see the fear in the opponent's eyes as well of the players. Like they have close-ups on the players, and you look at them, and they've really been unsettled by it.
Oh yeah, and you think like it's the players and the manager. Like obviously Pep is the classic. You know, his head literally fell off at Anfield, and I didn't know what to do. But yeah, like, you know, you think of times, like especially like, you know, the Granit Xhaka thing with Trent a couple of years ago, and it was like, you've just pressed the wrong button there, fella, and you're going to pay for that, and your team are going to pay for it. And, you know, you think of like a couple of weeks ago, Mbappe missing the penalty, and you think, oh, like that's just swung the momentum massively back in our favour, because it could have been a little bit nervy there, but then it just takes over, and it's unstoppable. And we will have them moments this season. We will need Anfield. We will need the fans. And when it's called upon, I'm sure, you know, we as fans and the players will rise to the occasion. And hopefully, you know, those big occasions are going to come nearer to May when the trophies are involved.
Hey guys, it's Eddie Gibbs from Anfield Index here. I hope you're enjoying this podcast, and I'm sorry to call time on the show before it ends. In the current climate, it's tougher than ever before to offer podcasts for free. At Anfield Index, we produce over 75 free shows every month, which I'm confident is unparalleled in the LFC sphere. Whilst we'd love to offer everything for free, the production costs now make this impossible. That said, we don't want to follow the model of other channels and lock all of our content behind a paywall. So what we've decided to do is to continue offering every show for free, but cut that offering to 30 minutes on our longer shows. So to get all of our shows in full and enjoy the best of everything we have to offer, we really hope you'll consider supporting the channel and signing up at AnfieldIndexPro.com. For about the price of one cup of coffee, you'll get every podcast in full with 0 ads. You'll also get access to our LFC VIP community, where you can enjoy live podcasts, engage with our podcasters, and chat with other Reds in real time. So that website again, AnfieldIndexPro.com. Join today.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.